Back to the terror in London. The mood, in my opinion, is shifting. There are now more calls to go on offense rather than constantly playing defense. Joining me now, Robert Charles, former Assistant Secretary of State under Colin Powell. Sir, I think that's true of Britain. They want to go on the offense. I think it's also true increasingly of America. Get on the offense and stop playing defense. What say you, sir?
I think you're exactly right, and I'd make just a couple of quick points. One is that in Qatar, we see the president went to the Middle East. He asked our allies there to show leadership, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, UAE, and that's exactly what they're doing. And they have been very strong-minded in their defense and also in their attack on terrorism. And then back here again, I think we've got a couple of things we need to do. We need to take lessons from history. We need to own this war. We need to be proactive as individuals. We need to be out there looking and be vigilant in a much more, I think, a much more robust way. We need to recognize that we are at war. This is a bit like September 1940 in Great Britain, when people had to recognize, hey, you know, this is really all about us. We need to battle it.
If you're putting it in very strong terms here.
I am.
And I think we're on the same page about where voters in America and voters in Britain actually stand on this. But come on, talk politics to me for a second. I see President Trump going on offense with his renewed call for a travel ban and maybe taking it to the Supreme Court. I don't see Democrats going on offense. I see them, frankly, without a policy. I know you're not a politician kind of guy, but you know, what's going on here?
Well, I think you're right. I think that you can't resist reality forever. I think we have to come back together as a nation around some basic principles. And I'm not sure it's so much a ban as it's simply a protective measure to protect us all. And I think the Supreme Court's probably going to come out that way. The last thing I'll say is we've got to circle around law enforcement. You know, again, in 1940, I go back to people like Churchill, who said, looking at the RAF, he said, you know, never in the history of mankind have so many owed so much to so few. That's really where we are with law enforcement today. They were on that scene in London in 8 minutes. That's what they would do here. We need to be one nation committed to one mission.
On that subject, it took them, well, it took them 8 minutes from the first report of action on London Bridge to the police actually arriving and killing the 3 assailants. 8 minutes. What do you say to the argument that it wouldn't have been 8 minutes, it would have been more like 30 seconds if there had been more guns on the street owned by the police officers who were present on the scene?
Well, or owned by the citizenry. I mean, look,
right.
American citizens have always been trusted with their firearms. That's why we have a Second Amendment. And the bottom line is we need to start trusting ourselves as a people again and stop attacking ourselves. You know, when we turn on each other like a circle, like a firing squad in a circle, we make a mess. When we turn outward and we protect one another, we get in a much better position.
Robert, I'm surprised to hear you expressing a very strong, somewhat harsh opinion, because I don't know your politics, but I assumed that you were going to be in favor of a more defensive posture. We can absorb it. We can take it. Did Manchester and London change your opinion?
I think the operational tempo of the bad guys is rising. And, you know, I also worked in the Reagan White House, and I think Reagan offers a lot of lessons forward as well. You have to be proactive, even if you're protecting civil rights. There is a balance. It can be struck, and we need to collectively look to strike it.
Okay, Robert Charles, thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Yes,
I'll have more on this later. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.